One back to old school sports and our report on the 2022 season from the Miami Marlins in OOTP 22. We're midway through the season right now, and things are going as good as can be expected. We are 500 at 40-40, and we're in second place in the NL East, only 2.5 games behind the Braves. We've made a couple changes to the team over the course of the season, although we still haven't signed a big free agent yet. But we have definitely supplemented our pitching staff, which has been helpful as we try to make a push to, remain 500 in the worst case scenario. We picked up Tony Gonsolin on waivers right when the season started. The Dodgers had waived him, and we added him to the team. He's slotted in as a starter most of the time for us, although you can see he also has picked up one save for us. His ERA is 5.40, which obviously isn't great, and his ERA plus of 76, not awesome, but his WAR is still actually 0.8, and Sandy Alcantara, who's one of our starters, has been injured for the last month and a half or so. So the pickup of Gonsolin has been a nice addition for us. And then the other change that we made was we bought on Brent Suter. And we actually made a trade for him. We had mentioned that we had DFA'd our catcher, Jonathan LaCroix, and after he cleared waivers and needed an assignment, he refused to go to AAA. So we shopped him and were able to pick up another solid left-handed reliever who actually has moved into the closer role for us because David Robertson, probably the reason we were able to sign him to that contract for 2 years for a relatively modest $2.5 million a year, is that he seems to have really lost it this year, at least in terms of his ratings. Although you'll see that he still has a 2.57 ERA for the season, so he's been solid. But he moved out of the closer role for us when we bought on Brent Suter. So those are the key changes so far. You can see it's Friday, July 8th, so we're preparing for the draft of high school and college prospects, and we have the 5th pick in the draft this year following the weak year that we had last year. So that should give us an opportunity to hopefully add a talented player and a talented prospect to the team. We also recently made our free agent international signing, and we picked up a nice prospect, Jordan Maldonado, out of the Dominican Republic. Starting pitcher, left-handed, which we can always use. Doesn't look like he's going to be a top-of-the-rotation kind of guy, but he potentially has 4 pitches. If he can, particularly make that change-up and forkball eventually be good. Could be, solid across the board, good stamina. So we thought it was worth taking a flyer on him. Can never have too much pitching, so we'll see how he develops over the next 5 or 6 years. Hopefully in a few years he'll be in the minors for us and moving up through the organization. But we'll be looking to supplement Jordan Maldonado with whoever we can pick up in the rookie draft coming up in a couple of days. And then we've also been keeping our eye on the trade block to see who we can pick up from other teams as the season moves along and others fall out of contention. Right now, still mostly relievers. So not sure exactly if mostly relievers. Of course, we're only looking at pitchers right now, so perhaps if we were to look at all players, we would see something a little different. Manuel Margot, who we had talked about in the past, is still out there, but Tampa Bay is looking for a lot for him, even though he is going to be a free agent after this season. They don't seem in any rush to sign him. But honestly, our interest in trading for him is lower than it was. I mentioned last year that Monty Harrison had done a good job for us when he was called up in 2021. He's had some injury issues this year, but has still been our starting center fielder when he's been around. Certainly not nearly as productive. You can see his batting average has fallen by exactly 100 points, and his OPS is half of what it was during that cup of coffee at the end of the 2021 season. But he's actually developed into a pretty good defensive center fielder. We knew he had pretty good range, error, and arm, and a 60 overall in center field. So not perfect, but certainly makes the interest of us in pursuing Margot, who is better defensively and slightly better with the bat, but also is making $9 million more and is going to be a free agent, whereas we've got Harrison under control for many seasons to come. So certainly would upgrade center if we could make a big upgrade, but there's probably not one out there. I think in a perfect world, what we'd like to find over the next 3.5 weeks until the trade deadline is potentially a corner outfielder with a big bat. And then if there's a top-line starting pitcher that comes through, we'll look to add them also, because we still do have almost $20 million for free agents. So we can take on some contracts, and hopefully we'll find something that helps us in the push for 500 and also in the more remote scenario, a push to actually get into the playoffs. Our owner, Bruce Sherman, is really happy with us at this point. He expected us to just not be horrible, so being at 500 is positive. The trade for A.J. Pollock with the Dodgers is viewed positively, and I mentioned in previous episode that we cut our ticket prices by another 50 cents this year, and with the team performing better and the lower ticket price, our attendance is up significantly. We've gone from in the 19,000 area to the 20,000 area, 29,000 area in terms of attendance. So almost an extra 10,000 people a game and up more than 50% compared to where we were a year ago. So good start to the season so far, but obviously half of the season to go, and we've got a lot of work to do to put a better season than 2021 was into the books for the Miami Marlins. We just completed the first-year player draft, and the flexibility that we built into our franchise by having a lot of money saved, I think, is going to really have paid off for us. We ended up, as you can see, drafting several people whose demands are significantly higher than the slot that we drafted them in. Normally, not something that we would do with the first 3 picks in a row, but given that we had so much money saved up since we weren't able to kind of find the marquee free agent this year, figured this was a good way to potentially supplement the team for the future. And I'm pretty pleased with the potential of some of these people. We went with a catcher in the first round for the second year in a row. Similar to our catcher that we drafted last year, he may not end up in the catching position forever. Might have to move him to a corner outfield or a corner infield slot. But looks like he potentially will have a real good eye and potentially have some home run power and be a nice bat for us down the line and possibly good behind the plate. But he does have a lot of work to do to kind of get his catcher ability up to where it would be acceptable behind the plate. And then in the second and third rounds, we added a couple of interesting high school pitching prospects. Jackson Ferris, a left-hander with potentially 3+ pitches. And we also added Austin Williamson, who has potentially 3 decent pitches. Neither of these guys looks like they're going to be a superstar, but they still have potential to contribute to the rotation 4 or 5 years down the line. And in a team like Miami, if we can get a couple of serviceable major league starters under our control until free agency for 6 years, that's a big plus for us given the constraints we face with our budget. So we think it could be an interesting draft for us that could pay dividends over the course of the year. Not too much has changed otherwise. We've only played 4 games since we last checked in, and we split those two. So we're 42 and 42 past the halfway point, 2.5 games behind. And we'll see in the coming weeks if we can use some of the money that we do have left in our budget. We're down to close to 14 million to take on some salaries as teams start deciding that they're going to bail on this season and look to get some young talent for their older talent. And there are plenty of good teams with quality players that are out of contention at this point. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, some additional players will be added to the trade block, and we can track down perhaps a starting pitcher and a corner outfielder who will really supplement our pitching and our offense for the balance of the season. As we've approached the trade deadline, we're half a game out in the division, and we are a game and a half out of the wild card. And I know this is pretty surprising after the haste in which we were ready to tear the team down last season and trade away our batters. But we've found some opportunities in the trade market, and we are going to try to make a run for the playoffs this season. Over the last week or so, we've made 3 potentially big trades. The first one is we traded with the Padres, and we picked up Yu Darvish, who will definitely help our rotation. He's certainly older and not what he used to be, and you can see that in the first game he pitched for us, he got knocked around a little bit. But we were able to give up 3 pitching prospects for him and got the Padres to retain a good chunk of his salary this season and next season. So he'll be a cost-effective frontline starter for us. And then earlier today, we made 2 additional trades. The first one was to trade for Nomar Mazara, who was actually on our team last year. We let him go as a free agent when we couldn't come to an agreement with him. Texas picked him up. He's having a respectable season there. We needed another bat. We needed help in the corner outfielder. So we traded several pitching prospects as well as Adam Duvall, who had been on our team and was unhappy with his lack of usage this year. And given his 179 batting average, we were perfectly fine to give him up. And then to kind of make room for some of our new pitchers, we shipped off David Robertson. We were excited by the contract we signed him to just a few months ago, but now we're glad to get his $2.5 million that is on the books next season off of our books. And then the final trade was another way to bolster the pitching staff. We traded with our divisional rival, the Mets. Had to give them a couple of young pitching prospects, but we picked up Carlos Carrasco, who's a free agent at the end of this season. So basically added first and second starters and improved our outfield. So if there's ever a chance for us to make a run at it, it seems like it's where we are right now. We definitely gutted our farm system a bit, but with some of the young guys we picked over the last couple of years, we're comfortable doing that. When you've got a team like the Marlins and you think there's a chance to make a playoff run, you got to go for it. So that's what we're doing. Well, we tried to make a run for it. We were in it until the end. And as you can see here, we lost our last 7 games of the season to not only miss the playoffs, but also end up with a losing record. So that's a bit of a disappointing finish. You can see that we ended up finishing 3rd in the NL East, and it was absolutely a winnable division. Atlanta won at 83 and 79. So glad we made a run at it. This was still significant progress from the previous season, which is going to be positive. The people that we brought on at the trade deadline actually did a pretty good job helping us try to get over the hump and get into the playoffs. Carlos Carrasco pitched his way to a 3.46 ERA. Yu Darvish, who we'll have next season, was even better, a 3.69 ERA, and he won 4 games for us. And then in the outfield, Nomar Mazara came on and did hit 10 home runs for us in 63 games, 250 batting average, 343 OBP. His OPS was 115, so we tried to make a run for it. It didn't work out. Oh well, it was still good progress compared to where we were a year ago. We got close to 500. We won 14 more games than we did the season before. So look forward to the evaluation of the owner on how we did in the coming weeks. In the meantime, we'll start getting ready for the off season. Thank you all for watching. Look forward to your feedback and comments, and we will be back again shortly with 2022 season recap and our plan for free agency. Thanks for watching.